Welcome everyone for another live stream. My name is Manuel Sensili. I'm your producer and host for this stream, and we have Jack in the back as always, doing a great job. Today is very special because this is the last stream of the year before we see you again in January, and we have our friends from NIMRODS today. And for those who don't know, NIMRODS is a Guncraft survivor. It's a roguelike, roguelite actually, bullet hell shooter where players as an expendable task force scavenge alien planets to build an infinitely customized over-the-top firearms to fight off hordes of enemies. But without further ado, let's watch a little trailer and introduce our friends. What a trailer. Thank you so much for showing this, Jack. And yes, as you guessed it in the chat, we have Laurent with us as well today and our friends at NIMRODS. How are you guys doing?
Hey, doing well.
Everybody.
Happy Tuesday. We have Andrew in the chat, people joining from British Columbia, Canada, Montreal, Nepal, Asia. Wow, people are coming from all over the place. Why don't we introduce each other? Let's start with Kevin.
My name is Kevin. I'm part of 5amp. We're a small indie studio, and we've been doing this since 2014. But yeah, it started off with me and Chris.
Amazing. What about you, Chris?
Yeah, other half of the co-founding part of 5amp, and yeah, just super excited to be here and kind of share some of our story and talk about NIMRODS.
Sweet. And Laurent, I mean, you don't need any introduction, but just for those who never saw you before in this life.
Yeah, no, I'm Laurent. I'm part of the product team here at Unity. I've been involved with DOTS for many years and a bunch of other things at Unity. Always enjoy doing those live streams and talk about like amazing games. And NIMRODS, I've been talking to the team for like a long time about this stream, and I'm so glad we're doing it, especially because like that topic is very interesting to me. Like the migration to DOT mid-production is like, I have a million questions already.
And it's actually very interesting because like you said, I think we've been trying to do this stream for about a year and a half now. And so this is amazing that we finally got the team together. And plus, it's just a perfect example of DOTS implementation. 100,000 bullets. I mean, I want to hear all about it. And I'm super excited to dive into this a little bit more. So maybe something that could be interesting for the chat is to tell us a little bit more about how you started. Like, what is the beginning of the studio? How did you decide to actually get together and start making games?
Yeah, of course. Honestly, I mean, it's been a long run. I think we got started way back in 2014. Kevin and I have always been interested in games, and we were working together in the same team, working on operating systems actually at a big tech company, and we were just making games on the weekends. and hoping to use those projects. Initially, we had tons of different projects ideas that we wanted to use to try and nail jobs in the AAA and just like in traditional games industry. So we had a small mechanic that we wanted to build something that would like use the accelerometer on a phone and have like a little pickaxe in it. And that's when we found a Unity as like a perfect platform to reach both mobile and so we got started. I think that project was on like Unity 3, and it's made all the transitions because now it's on Unity 6, I believe. And
Unity 3, really?
Yeah, it's been fun to go through those upgrade trajectories, and so we got started making that one. Finished that game, shipped it, used it, got jobs in the industry, and then now we're trying to do this balance between holding our jobs and still like moonlighting the game development. And then eventually, I think it was one day we just like I called up Kevin and I was like, "Have you seen like how well the game is doing?" And it was at that time that we tried to like use our time off to try and manage like and keep adding content to the game. And I think it was like the kicker was like we got a support ticket. It was like, hey, it's really difficult to spend the amount or like to go through this transaction flow multiple times. We just it was a free to play title. We threw one in-app purchase for $1, and we're like, if anybody gives us anything for this game, like that would be amazing.
Already a success.
Exactly. And so they were like, hey, I want a bigger transaction. I don't want to have to do this 20 times or something like that. And so we were like, if there's any time that we're going to do this, it's now. And so we jumped off to go full time at that point. And we've always been just super indie, super bootstrap, never wanted to take on any money and just grow super slow and comfortably to just hopefully stay in the dream of just making games and slowly growing our pedigree, making them more sophisticated, more complicated, and just growing our tech stack and make a better game with each title. So we started on mobile and it was all free to play, and we did a hyper casual stint. Then we made another kind of idle game that was more conveyor belt style. Then we made like a merge game, and we'd been experimenting with bringing our games to Steam as well. We'd port them, but they're still free to play, so it's not necessarily the lion's share of that market. So we're super excited with this latest prototype. We've always had tons of prototypes, but this one we got to build was premium and desktop first, and then eventually port it to additional platforms. So that's kind of the backstory.
I love that. Yeah. Kevin, actually, I wanted to ask you, like, that must have been scary, that moment where you decided to go full time, and maybe just to inspire the crowd a little bit, like, what was the thing that made you think, okay, we can do it?
Yeah, so it was, I was working at Gearbox at the time, and working on Battleborn, RIP, but with that too, like, me and Chris just looked at the revenue, and it's like the team that I was working with at Gearbox, it was like a lot of talented, bright people, but when me and Chris saw the revenue, it was like, okay, this game is pulling like twice as much as what we're making, and yet we're spending like 10% of our time on it. Like, now's the time, or else we're going to regret it later. So that's when we're just like, all right, we got to do it. And because we would always be wondering, like, what if? So yeah, we went ahead and made that jump, and it was at least scary for a little bit, but then afterwards, like, me and Chris just because he was in San Francisco, I was in Dallas, and we would just kind of do trips. I would stay over at his place for a couple months, and we just kind of hack it out. It was nice. It was really good.
Those early days, like, you got to do another cottage trip together now, just to like revisit the vibes of the early days.
Yeah, Chris just came to Austin, a month ago or so.
Yeah, it's perfect. We try to get together. We've slowly grown, so we're now up to 5 people, and we try to get together at least once, hopefully twice a year, and just get everybody in the same room and feel out that because we're super prototype, kind of hacker, just throw something together and then see if which of those prototypes stand out, and that we can bring it to a full production cycle. So it's always fun to get everybody together. And
that's actually a very great. As a designer, I love those brainstorming sessions that usually lead to actual product. Actually, Laurent, how did you get to know them? Like, what was your first encounter to the NIMRODS team?
Well, I guess actually I don't remember exactly what event that the conversation started, but I've been When I joined the DOTS crew back in, I think mid 2021. I think that's a long time ago already.
The pandemic feels like 10 years ago.
Exactly. In year 5 post-pandemic. When I joined the DOTS team, I've been like always on the lookout for, trying to understand what that technology could enable in game production, because we were a little bit like all around the place initially with like trying to reinvent the Unity engine overall. And so at some point, we've been very methodic about it. Like I would go to every event, I would try to find early adopters of those technologies and be just like, okay, what does it do for you? What is the actual value you get in production? And that's how we came to reshaping 1.0 that landed in Unity 2022 RTS. And so along the way, I've been like meeting with so many game developers that were like exploring using this technology in their games. And yeah, we get to talk about NIMRODS. And what I like very much about it is sometimes because ECS and DOTS are associated to high performance and complexity, then it feels like it has to be 3D, it has to be like a huge amount of content and large words and so on. And that's not the case. Most of the time, that kind of tool is all about solving that specific, performance issue that you need control over. And I was like, oh my God, this is a perfect example. 2D game, there is like a lot going on there, but the tech is used for what it's meant to be, which is solving that particular bottleneck that prevents them to get the performance they need on the device they have. So yeah, super excited to like dig deeper into that architecture and get to the nitty-gritty details of the technical challenges.
Sweet. And we will do exactly just that today. We will get a chance to see kind of like the under the hood of the car. And at the same time, we got some surprises for the guests. So people in the chat, just so you know, you can ask any question at any time. I'll try my best to resurface them to the stream when they are relevant. But we also have some surprises for you because the team at NIMRODS has been very kind and shared with us 5 codes actually for the game. So if you watch the stream, not in VOD, but live, you get a chance to actually get some codes. And the first one is dropping in 5 seconds in the chat. So make sure that you copy paste very fast. I'll be dropping the first code right now in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. So we'll get a couple more codes throughout the stream, so make sure that you stay connected with us until the end. All right, so next question for you. Can you tell us a little bit about the game? Like, what is it? How do you define or present it when people ask you, what is NIMRODS?
Yeah, it might even be best to just show off the game. I think the first part of the tech demo, we can kind of just dig into the actual game and kind of detail the pillars. Let me see. Let me get my system audio up.
Let's do it.
And then I'll hop
check in the chat. We get people saying the ECS. John Abro saying that he like how ECS supports separation of concerns. I think that was a message for you, Laurent. And then Ruan Fernando says, I can confirm Laurent is fantastic at building relationships with the community. Really awesome guy. There you go. Get your flowers, Laurent.
But yeah, the ECS, like separation of concern, this one is very important. That's the whole point. The whole point is trying to guide game developers to not mix up data and behavior together. That's the core of it.
Yeah.
He's asking, when you partner with developers, do you find projects that fit Unity, or is it more Unity that try to find something interesting in those projects?
I don't. So like now we're diving into like more of the personal areas of things. I joined Unity because I'm a game developer too. So just, nerding out about those things together is the amazing thing that happens when you work in a game engine. So it depends, like it goes both ways.
Love that. Cool. And now we're seeing your screen. Perfect. Let's dive into
it. Sick. Yeah. So, and Kevin, feel free to kind of jump in at any time as well, but just kind of it's your classic kind of roguelike where you deploy and you pick 3. But we can kind of like go through the 3 pillars that made it quite unique. So, it's classic kind of enemies are coming in, they're going to drop experience, and you can aim with your cursor, or you can enable auto aim too. So just, a lot of accessibility in there. But once you collect experience, then an airdrop will drop in, and then you get selection. And so what's unique in this title, and this is kind of the first pillar of three that we feel like really makes it stand out is it's all about gun customization. So as opposed to picking a bunch of different weapons that all have their own upgrade path, you're upgrading just one gun. So there's 7 slots on your gun, and you're going to pick a barrel from a bunch of choices of barrels. This is kind of our debug menu so that we can work around like the re-rolling and whatnot.
I was like, I didn't see that menu. I was looking for it.
Yeah, so we can just re-roll as many times as we want. But so you got your 7 slots, and then you got an underbarrel, which gives you a right click. You have a stock, you have grips, you have magazine slots, and everything like that. So we can pick this one. This one's kind of fun, and all of these augments dramatically change the way your gun shoots, and they all combine on top of each other. So we'll get kind of a little preview of that with this one. So this is a hitting an enemy with the bullet spawn sub bullets that'll split out in directions. So now we started with just a pistol that's shooting, and then now every time it shoots, it's going to spawn sub bullets. Keep playing through, and then we'll get more level ups. And then let's see if we can get something that'll. Oh, this is perfect. Actually, we can take Helix
I was
barrel.
about to say that's a good one.
It's gonna double the bullet count, and it's also gonna ignore bullet spread and fire in a helix pattern. So we're gonna see like kind of a sine wave.
I also love the pixel art, both in the game itself and the UI. It's really good. There's Moemem on Twitch that's asking, is it UI toolkit?
No, this is all just Unity UGUI.
UGUI? Okay.
Yeah. We played a little bit around with Toolkit for some editor tooling, but at some point we'll probably do another project with it.
Sweet. Yeah, and as you can see here is that with the helix pattern, so like all the bullets, they go in this wave pattern, but also the splitting augment still works, and then the split bullets have that same augment, same modifier attached to it. So like that was one of our main goals was that all the modifiers to work with each other. And there's just so many different combinations. Like this is just one of the many ones. Like the helix plus the split ones is a very cool like visual.
Yeah, that's where I really like got super excited about the game. Is like the combinatorial experience here is so large, and like a million parameters to consider every time you're making a choice. That's really cool. Like there's really a thrill of you can really get deep into optimizing your actual gun.
And I love that it's the gun that's being updated and not the character itself. Like it's such a unique.
Yeah, and that'll get us into I can kind of show you the next pillar, and then we'll get into some more like kind of crazy gun combinations. But what you see in most roguelikes is like your build, that was it, and then if that was the dream run, it's over. And since we're crafting an actual entity, it's all getting put on the same gun. We like through the development, this kind of just grew out of iteration and just trying to find the fun. Is like we were compelled to like, could we do something with that gun after you've built it? And so instead of just the run's over and what did you accomplish, the gun comes back with you to your home ship, so you can still mess around with it, test it, see how much DPS it does.
That's so cool.
But also you get to play with that previous run. So you have a little drone companion, and you can give him the gun, and then he's going to actually deploy with us on this next run. And let's see, on this one, we'll pick a different gun. How about, probably pulse rifle. So all the different guns, like this is part of that combinatorial. We have a gun that shoots bees. We have one that shoots like homing little missiles. This is a gun that shoots bullets, which shoots more bullets. Flamethrower, all this stuff. We'll
I love how they all have their own unique sound as well. We're hearing it right now.
Yeah, nice. So then we'll see the drone, and he's going to actually make the same decisions we made in the run when we built that gun.
Okay, so he doesn't start with the final version, but with the original gun, and then he
you can
choose the same path.
Yeah, the little purple reticle is kind of tracking its progress, and it's going to make those same upgrades. So now it's got the splitter bullets, and you can see that's happening. So let's see.
And the pulse rifle, it has like the thing that makes it different is that the projectile lifetime, like projectiles last longer, but also they're a little bit slower. So you kind of want to think about which other builds you want to do that synergizes with those two steps.
Yeah, it also starts with like a 6 base. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, you're fine. Just resurfacing a conversation that was happening on Twitch in parallel with Big RD Tech saying "UGUI for the win. Let's show who's the boss" to those UI toolkitters. But then he said, "Joke. I never actually gave UI toolkit a try for more than 5 minutes, but he has a friend that says that it's a great tool and that he will give it a try one day." And that's basically the spirit here. Is like it's both great. It's really to each their own. Depends what your level of comfort. But definitely give a try to the latest UI toolkit for those that haven't had a chance to try it since the most recent Unity update. It's been really great.
Well, yeah, I guess probably what happened to you is since you started so long ago, you probably had already a ton of UI developed on the original UI stack. Is that what happened?
We used to do for the first game. We used to do on GUI.
Yeah.
Like, oh my god! Yeah, Pitcraft was like classic. Even the debug menu is still immediate mode.
Oh yeah,
But it's cool that you're using UI toolkits for the actual editor tools as well. And BigRD is also asking you guys: is the whole game on DOTS ECS, or are you guys using some hybrid approach here?
So majority of the game is on. It's backed by entity/systems. Actually, yeah, like maybe over 90%. It's definitely like a hybrid, and we'll be getting into this too. But certain elements, and that's the challenge here, is kind of like balancing out. Like, hey, do we just convert the whole entire game to DOTS, or do we take a step-by-step approach and be like, hey, which elements are like the highest, or which ones are slowing down the most, and then maybe we can optimize those first. So, like for example, in this one, projectiles, since you have thousands on the screen. Projectiles were the number one priority for us to convert. So the projectiles right now, they are on entities, entity graphics, no game object associated with them. But other elements that we have yet to visit for porting to DOTS, for example, the airdrops right now, they're game object. So those haven't been ported yet, but it's definitely on our list to do.
Yeah, I think the question about how much of your game is ECS is like a kind of like a problematic question we created ourselves a little bit, because when we started working on ECS and DOTS, we've been kind of telling everybody, well, your game is going to have to be all ECS or all game object, like one or the other. And it's not even that useful like in most games, because there's many things in the gameplay that are anti-pattern for ECS, so things that are like actually inefficient to do in an ECS way. And the easiest way to reason about that is if you have a large number of entity to which you can apply similar behavior. So limited behavior is large amount of entity. That's the best case scenario. And the opposite is the worst case scenario. You have very limited entities, but a large number of behaviors.
Yes.
And like that's really like if you're in that situation, then not using ECS is probably your best friend.
Yep.
Totally.
And for these projectiles, if you look at it, like Chris picked the Helix barrel, which is the wave projectile modifier, and we have like a jobified system to kind of handle these. But at the same time, he picked up the containment field, which forces your projectile to be in this field, but they're still doing the wave pattern, and they're exploding, which is like a separate event called the trigger on projectile impact. And they're also leaving behind a napalm effect that catches enemies on fire. So all of these still like working together.
And it's so smooth, still going on very smoothly.
Oh, this is not, yeah. So here I can, this kind of gives you a preview of kind of the gun crafting system, but something important to keep in mind is like, so we have all those 7 slots, and then of each of these slots, the augments upgrade. So they go up additional tiers. So we started with something that just makes our bullets explode, and then now it drops napalm on the ground, and then there's multiple paths in tier 3 and 4 and all of these slots. So I can just show some previews of like, let's say you have all of these augments filled up. Let me make sure I don't die. And just like load some random debug guns. Like I think this one has like a wild swirl effect. It's just, this one has like tethers on the gun. That's I think from the barrel, which like your bullets will get tethered to the previous bullet or in the same bullet. And then we have something that's doing on the add-on, this is bullets that exit the screen are going to reappear on the other side of the screen. And so a bunch of these things just all combining together.
Oh my God,
these ridiculous kind of
also keep in mind that this is editor, so the burst compile is off.
Yeah.
and safety checks. So it's more of a disclaimer.
Yeah. Some of these are. This one's like a different one. I think we have homing on this one with the scope, spitting out these. So you got these kind of like cool double helix. There's not a lot of.
Now you're just flexing. I think it's a good time to drop another code in the chat for the people. Nice. So in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and another code just dropped in the chat.
Let's see. I think we have one. This one's fun. It's like, we got a boss coming in.
We've never got to making the audio system being able to run on ECS. So was that something that you missed? Because I can hear here like the amount of like audio sources playing at the same time.
Yeah, it's actually something we're still working on that we haven't fully finished. Right now, it's just it pops out to a managed system, and it has like we just have a buffer that we kind of add to, and then at the end of the frame we'll play all of everything that got recorded to make that translation from ECS back to managed space. But there's still a lot of work we need to do to make sure that like we're not playing too many sources at once. So I think it's been a bit of a mix where like some people enjoy like breaking the game, and so like we weren't as incentivized to fix the audio as soon, because it's still early access, and it's just like when do we get each piece of the game in. And so that's one thing that is very
balance content in with the performance improvements. That's been the challenge.
But audio, it's all managed. And
but the audio actually, I mean, we so the way that our game works is that we have everything represented as a scriptable object, and each of these scriptable objects, they have indices. So like if you want to play an audio, we have code gen that says, so like in code we could say, hey, I want to play audio ID of this, and then that managed system is like, okay, I know exactly which one to grab.
We have Jonah Bruce on YouTube asking, do you run entity queries in your Go updates?
That one we're going away from. Like everything is being derived from a system, because if you run something on the mono behavior update, depends on which update, it might conflict with the ordering of the systems. So for example, a lot of systems, we want to make sure that, hey, this one runs after this system and before this other one. So just having everything derived from system is much better.
Sweet. The Bull says DOTS and ECS are something that he needs to delve into more. Seems like it lines up with how he tends to naturally design things anyways.
Yeah, it's been because I mean the game started off as a demo with all game objects, no dots at all. But even the shift of kind of going from game objects OOP to data-oriented design, like it was a little bit of a learning curve, but I mean now we're so used to it, and like adding in any functionality, any additional modifier, just another system, another component, and then
it's probably a good interlude too. We can show you kind of some of the modifiers and how it's set up in editor.
Yeah, I was about to like I don't know if you're planning to mention that later, but like when was the actual moment where you were like, okay, now we need to dive into it because we're having this challenge and we need like additional tools in our tool set?
Yeah, so we started off with when we did the prototype, we're like, okay, we have this, and what was really cool is that we got the whole like bullet spam, we got the like they were very fun builds, and we released a demo to itch.io first, and that one's doing great, but then everybody kept saying like, oh, my CPU, it's getting hammered and I can't do anything. So
when was that?
This was remember, Chris, like 2023 maybe?
Okay. It was a little over maybe a year and a half ago or so. And it's actually still up on play.unity.com, like the web, like the Strike-D or Struct-D, I think. We put it up there, and that's the old complete game objects framework. So you can kind of see how that one will fall over if you build a completely like late game weapon.
What version of Unity was that on?
That was 2022 LTS, I think.
Okay, so you were already like ECS was available to you, but you were all still based on GameObject. And was there like a defining moment where you were like, okay, we need to do something because it's not going to work, or was
Yes.
performance issues more, kind of a niche problem in your community?
It was definitely, especially the demo. It just reached the point where it was almost a meme. People were saying like the game turns into a slideshow. They were having fun with it, but it was clearly, hey, it's a prototype, it's a demo, but they definitely need to work on this. And I think we initially spent quite a bit of time trying to optimize game objects and the normal workflow as much as possible. So we even like our first delve into ECS systems, we're like, hey, let's just move a bunch of the heavy math over to a jobified thing and then pull that math back out and then apply it to our systems. And we were getting a little bit of a performance improvement, but not enough. And so we just kept trying and trying. And I think this, Kevin will kind of cover some of this, and I think he has it in the slides, but there's, we basically like couldn't push to the design principle that we wanted for the game, like how crazy it can get. And so it was at that point.
Did you imagine that maybe you would have to like limit your ambition in the complexity of the gameplay to be able to fit into like the performance available, or was that just unacceptable?
We fought that. Yeah.
We talked about, and I have a slide to share here too. We talked about like, all right, do we throttle it? Do we just change the craziness of the bullets? But the thing is that, as Chris was mentioning when we fought it, it was like, well, this is what like a lot of the players that we see playing is like, oh my God, this is crazy. It's getting ridiculous. So we wanted to do everything we can to like keep the magic feeling, like retain it. And so we did think about a bunch of different things, like whether it's design or just throttling, and all of it just didn't really feel that well. So we that's when we like explored like just kind of prototyping, just be like, all right, well, how much can DOTS improve this? And this is like some of the first like tests that we did. We're like, okay, this is tens of thousands of bullets and it's running great like in the editor. Okay, there's something here. This can work.
And like, do you have an actual frame of comparison, like this tens of thousands of bullets in the editor? Like, how did that? What was the difference between GameObject running that on GameObject versus ECS?
I don't even think we could measure. Like we couldn't get it to run. Like it would. I think it was crashing. Like our game object, like old mono behaviors and updates. If we spawned that many projectiles, we'd be in slideshow situation.
Yeah. And I could go back here, but like, so this is the demo, and this is like all the feedback that we got. And then this was just kind of like this slide. This was kind of the issue of the game object flows, because we had the projectile just kind of like walking through the steps. Is that the projectile, whenever it like hits something, we created like a new trigger context, and like it kind of just explains like what happened, who hit what got hit, and then we had our modifiers, where like in the same frame, this would also hook into any modifiers, and the modifiers can immediately react based on this. And then the damage system would kind of come afterwards. But this was all game objects, all in the same frame. And we just had garbage allocation, and things just snowballed in a really bad way for the game object land. So this is just something that we saw in the profiler of like, okay, we got to do something here. Because we just couldn't really support this compounding effect of all these modifiers.
I imagine that you've tried probably any kind of like workaround before making the decision to go to ECS, like having some master big object poolings and things all pre-allocated to avoid like memory collection and fragmentation.
Yeah, we spent at least over a month trying different things. Wow. And we just kept running into like managed bottlenecks. Like we would look on the profiler and be like, oh wow, like we're even just like list accessors of thousands of projectiles trying to like modify their positions. Like we're like, okay, even with pooling too, it's very tough.
And how long did it take you to get through the initial proof of concept of like, okay, ECS can actually be a solution there?
I think it was maybe a month of at least prototyping, and then less than a month just kind of do these exercises. And then we spent at least, I mean, you remember, Chris, it was like 3-4 months maybe.
Oh yeah, I mean it was very. It's a perfect example of kind of the transition, because we had a fully working prototype in game objects, model behavior, most of the implementation for all of our systems, mechanics, and everything like that. And so it wasn't, there was one path in which like, hey, let's just spin up an entirely new repository and like learned what we've learned and then re-implement everything from scratch, or let's slowly port it over. We went for the slowly porting over after like demoing that it would work with projectiles, and then slowly moving each system over. So it was a very like progressive transition. And I think it was probably like each section took at least a month or so, but I think within a couple months we had maybe 4 months.
That's incredible insights. Because some people might think that they have to do it all at one time. It's one or the other, but like sharing, like you said, that you can do it like over time and like one implementation at a time is actually pretty good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like right now, our projectiles, they're entity graphics entities, full-blown entities. But our units right now, that are enemies, those are still sprite renders. And we branched off to port the enemies to entities, get them all on entity graphics as well. But that's also like we had to put a pause because we want to get some content out. But then we'll revisit it because enemies aren't as a big blocker. They do become a big blocker in like late game, but right now the big blocker was projectiles.
Laurent, you wanted to add something?
I was just wondering, like, maybe you were going through your presentation in all the wrong order. Like, did you want to do
This is fine.
Oh yeah, all good.
I also have a couple questions in the chat whenever you guys are ready.
Yeah, here, I can get this thing rolling, but maybe we can take some questions in between.
Cool. Well, a few comments first. The bull saying seems like it lines up with the way it does things. So I just said that. Times with a lot of H at the end on YouTube says, love writing DOTS and ECS style code. Been waiting for something like ECS for all to dive back into the built-in ECS. Looking forward to see it all come together. Jonah Bruce saying hybrid is the way. Bigardi Tech just thanking you guys for answering questions. Toon Vibes Game saying hello Unity. What else? Really appreciate seeing how other teams are using it in these streams. Yep, we're continuing to do those. I think those are some of our favorite streamers to really open the, I call it opening the car engine and looking under the hood. Yeah. Any particular question that I missed? Oh yeah, Johnny Bruce is asking, using Unity Object Ref audio source for the sound? Question mark.
No, I think ours passes it just into like we have a fully managed. Actually, I can like audio.
Yeah, and you have the scriptable object here, where this one has an index associated with it as well.
Oh, yeah. There's nothing to really see, I guess, but yeah, it's still managed in the managed space, and we just kind of pass the message across.
Yeah, we're like it's like play audio index 20. If you look at this one on the top right, we have array index and all these.
Oh yeah, how we pass it across, like everything, like all of our scriptable objects kind of just have an index ID, and so we don't have to Unity object ref these things or blob asset them down. Like we could serialize them, but we kind of just do things in piecewise, and so we just kind of identify them in the unmanaged space with like IDs. So every audio has an ID, and then there's some source generation to be able to reference them directly, and then we're able to pass that information without having to like reference a Unity asset.
But imagine at some point, like there is so much going on screen that you probably want to tune down the amount of like audio mixing happening just to make it understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. It gets too much for sure.
So now that a lot of these, we're fixing a lot of these performance issues that we've had, like now we're running into a new problem where like, okay, this might be too many bullets. This might be too many audio files being played. Like, which one is more like making sure that, the upgrades are still perceivable, but also like if you go from 10,000 to 15,000 bullets, do you really know? Like, then we have to kind of, but it's like a different issue to kind of address, more of a design issue now that the optimization, now that it's optimized. So,
are you already on Unity 6.3?
Currently on 6.0, I think eventually, like this project will definitely get to probably 6.3 before we get to 1.0 though.
So just
Sweet.
foreshadowing here, like in 6.3, there is like improvements to the audio scriptable pipeline, and you might be able to do some of the sound generation by yourself from an ECS system. Just dropping
Oh,
it.
Nice.
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 For the full release of the game. The same commenter, Jonas, saying that he's using ECS for a joint-based destruction system. ECS is great. Well, that's happy to hear that. What else?
So we can kind of got this up on this side. This is kind of how our augment system works. We can kind of show it. So we have scriptable objects for each one of the augments that gets attached to the gun. And this is kind of how we just edit them in the editor. The chassis themselves are also just in a similar way. So they have a big stat block in which we kind of configure all their different base stats. And then we have modifiers, and this is how we pass all the information across and set up these like unique things that cascade. So you can have multiple of the same modifier on an add-on, and all of these just get compounded onto the gun. So this is kind of how we tweak. So you got something like, something with a unique mechanic like instant reloading, or I think this one has, we have like the homing sight, and so it's just a homing modifier with its homing strength, or something like this is the one that does the bubble effect is like a reflective vision projectile modifier. And so we just open these stacks, and we have tons of different ones that we've built. And then what we can actually do is jump in a game and probably demo like what it feels like to kind of tweak one of these. This time we could do the Teslion carbine. This is kind of an ion cannon that just, I forgot to set up the correct, just disable enemies, and we'll go droneless so we can focus.
And on these modifiers here, whenever we deploy and equip them on the gun, it translates to a separate entity, a new component, like behind the scenes. So
your test environment here, like is that something you have, you've generated a static version of that and using all the time, or?
Yeah, this one we use rarely, but it is like kind of a nice, just like put all the target dummies in the main world, so we don't have walls or anything to mess with, and then we still just use the main environment, typically just to make sure that we don't. It's the easiest way to test, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I just put on auto fire, and we could let's grab our Teslion, and what we could do is play with some of the modifiers. So like one of the first things we can do is mess with this trajectory. So we have things like we saw with the helix barrel, like the sinusoidal wave. So we'll get a wave like this coming out. Let's actually tweak just how big the magazine is. So we'll bump that to 50, bump our rate of fire. So we have more of a pattern coming out. And then like we can modify the amplitude, like let's say double the frequency and get a more like fast one. We have one like to show like how compound. Go ahead.
Are any of those tools available to players? Because it feels like I might just play at customizing stuff more than the game.
That's actually a fun idea. It could be like a mode where you can just like test.
We did like we have built a mono version of the game like for modding, like that they can play around with more and kind of encourage them. Some people have messed around, but not yet. Maybe at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, this one is like it curves and it still does helix. So
yeah, and we could do something like we could do the Gatlin modifier. This one's kind of a fun.
How do you like manage the dependency of modifiers here? Like usually with ECS, that's probably one of the biggest challenges. Lining up dependencies in a nice way, like a dependency graph kind of situation. What's happening here? Do you have like multiple systems pre-set up to do those passes?
Yeah, multiple systems, and then we just use system groups for these two. Like we have a projectile update system group, and then this is the one that we're like, okay, And luckily, I mean, the good thing is that if you want to set up with jobs, I mean, you could just set the dependency and it could just rely on the system group. But we just have like, hey, if you're going to be a projectile impact modifier, then use the system group projectile impact. If you're going to be updating the projectile every frame, like the wave projectile, then use that specific group. And then what they do is that they all touch like, hey, here's your displacement vector. So all these modifiers can add to it. And that's why you're able to have all of them support, like kind of being on the gun at the same time, because none of them override the vector. They just add to it.
So you kind of have like a fixed semantic of groups of modifiers that happens in always the same order. And then it's a matter of just saying that specific modifier belongs to that specific
Yep, exactly. Yep.
I could use that as a screensaver. My Fibonacci brain is acting up. I'm going to drop a third code in the chat in 5 seconds, people. In the meantime, we also have Be Free Thinker saying that you've played the game and it's very smooth. So he's thanking you guys for the fun.
Nice.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and new code in the chat right now. Fumiko2393 saying the low-level 2D physics API in Unity 6.3 is also pretty fun to work with. Laurent nodding his head.
Yeah, no, there's going to be a new space for you to play with. That's clear.
There you go. Where do you redeem these codes? I believe on Steam, right, guys?
Yep.
On Steam, Aboudi. Rames Funday, I'm curious how you get your scriptable object data into ECS. We've made bakers for them that extracts the thin data needed for runtime, skipping managed types like sprites and descriptions, etc.
Yeah, so what this does, what it's doing right now is that on runtime, we have an entity command buffer that adds this as a separate entity. We do have like a separate branch where we do bake these, because I know with baking you can't really do it or change them runtime. So right now it's kind of like a runtime version of the eventual baker. But I mean, speaking on that one too, like we started when we started on the conversion, we were just doing like a lot of add components. We had no bakers, but then now we're like, all right, like we even hit the entity limit count or the archetype limit count. And
oh my god! Yeah, right away.
Why do you even need to keep some of the data on the game object landscape? Like, what do you need to be able to play with on game object side?
Oh, like for the entities or?
Yeah.
So for example, on the game object side, when we first ported the projectiles, we had it where we had a game object. It was like a view for the projectile.
Sorry. We're all distracted by the visuals there.
It's so good.
And we had it where it started off at more of a game object follow system. So this is before we had projectile entities.
Because you still have the NPCs on the game object side only.
Right now, yeah. The environment assets, all of these that you see are entity graphics. But yeah, all the targets here, they're sprite renders still.
So maybe once you get to the point, I don't know if that's what you want to do, but if you bring the NPCs over to ECS, then you might be able to reduce dramatically the amount of baking you have to do.
Right. Yep. But yeah, even so, right now, like each projectile is we do bake them as one big singleton buffer. So if we were like whenever we want to spawn like a new projectile, and this is just derived from the scriptable objects, we have a separate scriptable object per projectile visual. And so yeah, all of these are baked too.
I've heard about that story the other way around, like people, like cooking long data set to send to ECS, but coming back from ECS to GameObject in kind of like a blob kind of mechanism. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and because even with bakers, like it does. Now we're not doing add component like runtime. We're doing add component in the baker, so it just works out better, just structurally.
If the main thing you need to, I'm kind of dropping a little bit of like future plans too here, but if the main thing you need is to share transformation between GameObject and ECS, that's like basically next step for us. Like here on the roadmap, we've been talking about how around 6.4, 6.5, 6.6, like coming up in 2026, we're going to have the transform data set being merged together between ECS and GameObject. So you're going to be able to manipulate directly GameObject transformation from an ECS system.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, because I mean, we've done a lot of that. This is another follower system.
Yeah.
Quite a few of those. Yeah.
There is a quick message in the chat. Let me check right now. Yeah, the Bull was saying he has a very old project that might benefit from DOTS. Definitely check it out. Jonah saying that ECS is great as well. Big RD actually asking on Twitch. Big RD, by the way, got one of the codes, so he's thanking you guys for. He said he's definitely going to check out the game. How do you guys manage to make sprites work with the game? Unity currently does not support sprite renderers, so are you using 3D quads with custom shaders to animate things out? If so, how do you manage the tile map?
Yep. With this one, whenever we bake our projectiles, we did add a mesh renderer to them. They're like 3D objects, 3D quads. So even I think maybe pulling up like the rocket. I think the rocket is a good one.
Yeah, I think I can.
Manu, you didn't read the most interesting comment there, saying, I've got
not.
Windows Media Player visualization.
Who said that?
That's on YouTube, on SO92.
So yeah, with this one we have. So this is the thing, the game object that is baked, or because we have an authoring component here, and we added a mesh render part of this one. Yeah, and as you can see here, this is. So we're since we started on sprite renderers, we wanted to kind of keep that flow the same, where you could just kind of slot in a specific sprite. So this one big material has all of the rocket. It's got like 4 frames, I believe. Yeah, 4 frames part of this, and it's just a sprite sheet. But we wanted to maintain the editor flows. So what we do is that whenever we slot this in, whenever it bakes, we just kind of record the tiling and the offsets, so that if you did want to animate it, you can increment it, or you could change it over time.
Well, I just saw the comments, but I'm still catching up on previous question. That's why. But I promise I'm reading everything. The Bull is asking, what was your biggest obstacle in changing from objects to ECS?
Let's see.
Might be a good transition to here. I can.
Oh, to the slide deck. Yeah, I think this would be a good time to.
Cool.
That one. But yeah, to address that, I think it was probably. I mean, we had a lot of managed systems in the game objects. It's kind of like in the middle of the state. So right now, like this is the old version where we just have like a projectile.cs, and it's a game object, and it has the movement code, and we have a separate list of modifiers here. Everything is just like combined together, and this is just what got really expensive. And then this was the next iteration of it, is that, hey, we still have our view. Now the view becomes very simplified, but then we have a system that controls the projectile entity. This is the thing that, hey, we're going to go ahead and move this, and we're going to
and the
yeah
physics.
Yep, the physics, the collision checks, the sending over all the triggers, all the event triggers to the modifiers, and then the game object is just following the entity local transform.
Nice.
And then the last one is like this is kind of where we're at right now, where at least for projectiles we have utilize entity graphics. Graphics is the graphics component is a separate entity, and then you have the core entity, which is the projectile entity. And then, of course, you have like all the other different components, projectile movement, etc.
I love those little architectural graph. It makes it super simple to follow. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah,
Tony said
so
that they wish that they had more questions. They're usually just happy to see the team step through and Laurent asking questions. You're in the perfect stream for that.
Yeah, I have to admit, like I'm totally jumping on those streams to ask more questions and get more
Yeah.
answers from game developers.
Whenever you can join, Laurent, you're always welcome. Time is also saying that he's generally just curious about one, design time tooling, and two, gotchas or things that the team struggled with.
I mean, there's yeah, I feel like just overall the whole lifetime of NIMRODS has been like we've had a lot of different pivots too. Actually, let me go ahead and go to the very first slide because yeah, we start. So this is like the early prototype, and this was
so cool.
Game objects. You know, and this is everything that we started off with. You know, no URP, no jobs, no nothing. And
I like how the slime balls evolved from the early days.
yeah. This is like a prototype pack of just like, hey, can we do a Tesla modifier where we have like these bolts arc to different enemies? But even so, with this one, we had it where it was arena shooter. So we tried this one out for a bit, but it was just always the we always kept like taking a step back and be like, all right, well, we want to make sure that this game is like very unique, and how do we introduce like new pillars so that we iterate on the genre. And even though it was like arena shooter, like that's when we said, all right, well, we have gun crafting, but do we want to do an arena shooter? How about we add in like a very large world to explore? Okay, then what? Okay, well, maybe you can have your drone play with you. Okay, and then it was this constant iterative approach that we were able to kind of get where we're at today.
It's great to think through like the steps that led to that and where you guys started and where you are now. It's awesome to share that.
And I guess now I'm starting to understand also that your gameplay iteration came first, and then your technological choices came second. So it's always like, you know, iterating on that game ID, finding that game loop fun, and then you're like, okay, now we have performance issues, and we actually need to go through with that.
Yep.
Yeah, and there was a lot of lessons. I think there's some quick tips at the end too that might cover some of that, of just like.
We keep doing in any order with your customers.
We throw it to the quick, like, hey, what were the gotchas? And I think there's like archetypes for us was a big one. Just like almost the growing pains that we went through. ECBs, I think. Oh, we had 0 bakers like to start, and we were just building all of our entity archetypes in code by hand, and it was massively exploding. And then there's a lot of these little ECBs. Yeah, I think we had like 300 subscriptions to the end-frame buffer, and then it became like a really interesting gotcha. There was just debugging became really difficult. If we had like an entity does not exist and we're doing everything with the same ECB, it became incredibly difficult to like trace it back and figure out like who was the one that recorded that actually ended up being the entity does not exist. So I think when we got started, there was I-enableable components, I believe, but I think it was still early days. Now we extensively use I-enableable components because we can set up the archetype and make sure that the structures are there, and then we don't have the entity archetype churn, and we don't have as much need for like when add component, remove component hell, which is what we started with.
Yeah.
Just implementing stuff for the first time.
I'm trying to think of what is the best way, because I could kind of go back a couple of frames and we
I think
just,
so. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's all good. So we have the transform follow system. This is kind of what we talked about, where this is just a very simple example where we just have this is actually for our units, but this is how it looked like when we had projectiles as a transform follow. So we just get the target position, and then you update your view controller from this. So this is how units are handled right now. And of course, you can't burst them because it's managed, but eventually this one will be gone whenever we port our enemies.
Sweet.
And then same thing too with particle systems. We had it where we wanted a specific projectile to have like a particle system, like a rocket trail. And with this one, the way we did these is that this is still baked on part of the projectile, but it's baked as a managed component. So all we do is that in this system, we spawn the specific particle system that we want to as just like a pool. And then we do the emit calls based on this. So for example, we have the projectile that's moving, and then, for each projectile, we go ahead and emit the particle system. So it's a very, like this could be done in game object land too, but this is just how we're able to accomplish it in iSystem type of way.
This is that kind of incremental, like we could port the whole particle system into an ECS thing, or use one. I think there's some packages to like port particle systems, but hey, we only have this many particle systems. How can we make it work without porting everything over the hill at the same time?
Yeah, because technically we could port the particle systems to be each of them as an entity, but yeah, that would be very intense. So
we're to re-implement it, yeah. Versus like each particle in the old world, like with game objects, they all had their own particle system, and we could still have utilized this tech, but this allowed us to like disassociate or disconnect those two things and just use emit in order to have one particle system and do it for all the projectiles.
I'm gonna drop our fourth code in the chat in 5 seconds. And we got a question from the Bull. Is there anything you really wanted to put in the game but didn't make it? And while you think of the answer, I'm putting the code in the chat in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Redeem it on Steam. So anything that you wanted to put in the game but didn't have a chance to implement?
I mean, we have yeah, that's a tough one, because even right now we have like so many different modifiers that we want to add, and it's just like this big list of like, okay,
there's a massive laundry
future
list.
backlog.
Yeah, we're still working through it, for sure.
Yeah,
I love that. Do you use transform access array? Sorry, I couldn't see well in the screenshot. Question from Be Free Thinker on YouTube.
we did at one point, but it was just tough too, because like in order to set up that transform access array, you had to like go through all of the game objects, and so there's a time where we did, but then we're like, okay, you know what? Let's with projectiles, the transform follow system was good enough, and then after that, we just kind of went to the entity graphics route.
That's a question for Laurent, I think, from Silicono. I don't know if you want to answer that.
Which one? GPU resident drawer support?
No. Any hint about when GPU resident drawer? Oh, yeah, sorry. That's the one. Yep. I was reading the first words.
Actually, I'm actually unsure about that. Is that not supported right now? There is. I'm just a little bit confused. I actually don't know. I'm not sure why that wouldn't work already. Do you guys know? I actually don't know.
For which one? For
I see it
resident drawer.
docs.
So the resident drawer is something that you should be able to access using ECS. So but maybe I'm missing something here. I actually don't know. So I would have to check. I'm going to ask the team right away.
There you go.
I think we tried it out when it first got announced, but then haven't been back since. Like the
It's not, apparently it's not directly compatible with the specific rendering path used by the existing Unity ECS. I'll
Interesting.
look into that as well, yeah. It's
Yes.
interesting. Thanks for asking, Silicono. If you have more questions, don't hesitate. And also, I keep saying it, but discussions, probably the best place to ask very important Unity question. I'm putting the link right now in the chat. That is our forum, and our team are really thorough and look through almost every thread daily. So if you have very specific question that you want to follow up with, besides the question that you're asking in the chat, this is a good place to post. And sometimes you get answers from the community itself and not even just Unity employees. Well, there you go. The Bull was like, throw that one up on the discussion board. He knows. He's been there on every stream. Oh, Bigardi was playing the game that he just redeemed through one of the codes that you guys shared. And he's like, just finished my first run. I'm really enjoying it. Congrats to the team. Are you watching the stream while you're playing? That's pretty good. Multitasking. Awesome. What else do we have here? Oh, Johnny Bro saying good news about the roadmap. Sweet. Oh, Rames was also pretty sure that this already worked, so yeah, we're definitely gonna look into that. Yeah,
That
and he's
was,
also developing. Whoa, that's triple multitasking. That's insane.
no, there's definitely when you use ECS, you should be able to use any feature of the SRP that you're getting into. And this graphic is just about batching up the content together, send it over to the SRP. So there shouldn't be any limitation there, but there is always sometimes one-off situation that happens in the stack too. So I need to verify that out.
Sweet. And we get Kevin back. Actually, I wanted to kind of move to the next section, which is the future of NIMRODS, if you guys are okay, unless you wanted to touch on a few points before we do that.
Yeah, I mean, that could definitely work, yeah.
Awesome. So what's the path towards 1.0?
Yeah, so right now we have it where it's always like the constant balance of, all right, we got to get content out. And we're a small dev team, so this balance is, it can be very challenging at times. But, optimizing
How do you balance that, actually? Is there any tips you could give to people that might be in the same situation?
Yeah, it's tough because, if you have a game in early access and if you do like several months without any updates, at least, post like a devlog of like, hey, this is what we're working on. But at the same time, we don't want to like rush any content that we haven't really tested, as well as like any optimizations. So sometimes me and Chris, like we tag team like any like major code changes or optimizations. And then sometimes too, it's like, hey, we went ahead and we released like a big, optimization pass, but then after that, like leapfrog, like now we're going to work on content. So kind of a little balance of both because, and also just listening to the players. Like right now, like there's a time where players were talking about the performance. So we went ahead and converted the projectiles to entities. And then part of that too was the Unity 6 upgrade. And then everybody was like, oh my God, the performance is amazing now. So we started getting less reviews about performance breaking their computers. And then now it's more of like the design reviews, like kind of the pain points that we have to address. And part of that is content, part of that is looking at the design, the balance. So it's a little bit different now in terms of optimization. Yes, we could port our enemy units, but we're not really experiencing that many negative reviews. So it's kind of more like we prioritize still up there because on Steam Deck we're profiling and we see like the unit managed transform follow systems kind of start getting up there in the profiler, but it's not as pressing as it used to be.
Till we're porting to consoles. So like, the focus, I think, get 1.0 out, make sure it runs well on PC, and then there's probably more optimization to do. Massive QA passes. Whenever we do one of these big ports of an entire system, it's then our team has to we get to throw the whole game at them, which is our massive QA.
Oh, your mic just cut a little bit there.
Oh yeah.
Bring it.
There you go. We have Rames Funday saying those team reviews are alpha and omega. Yep. It definitely changes the vibe.
So I've been chatting with the team in the background too about Resident Drawer. So
nice. We get live answers.
So apparently, that's the situation right now. Is the GPU Resident Drawer directly renders game object data, and these graphics will actually not be a part of it, but that's something that the team is currently working on. We kind of like actually got some preview into code that is expected to land at some point. So coming up, something a little bit easier to get ECS participating.
Just for you, Silicon Orchid 1980, just for you. Jonah Bro saying he couldn't be making his game without dots. Well, it's good to hear that. If you have a link to your game, John, share in the chat. We'll love to see it. Porting talk. Time for Laurent to mention platform toolkit. Message from time.
Well, if I need to mention everything that is like new or coming up, that would be like the entirety of the show. So maybe we should again. How many platforms do you currently support?
Yeah,
just Steam, or I guess Steam and Mac, and I guess it runs on Linux, but I think that's through the Proton.
Steam Deck,
Yeah.
And
I see the wish list on Xbox on their website that you shared.
Yeah, we're coming to consoles, but probably after 1.0. That's the target.
So let me tell you more about Platform Toolkit now. But it's gonna make things easier for sure.
Definitely achievements and all that. Like we have to figure all that out, but probably not anymore. Hopefully, we'll definitely give it a roll.
Exactly, that's the point. I don't have to think about it anymore.
I'm definitely looking forward to try it on Steam Deck, though.
Yeah, and what's great is that like Steam Deck has been our min spec, so the target is 60 frames per second. Steam Deck, and we feel like if we could hit that, then consoles will be a lot more easier. So just using that as a starting device. So
chat, we have one last code, but before I share it, I just want to see if anyone has questions. So drop your question. If I see 3 more questions, I'll drop the code. That's the deal.
Nice.
So guys, in terms of future as well, is there something that is like your perfect scenario? Because we know the struggle of development when it comes to like the last moments of the race, and there's a lot that happens on the development side, but also on the marketing side, and especially as a small team. I think a lot of our viewers are people that are solo developers sometimes. Do you have any tips as you're going through it? Like, it's almost the perfect moment to ask you that because you are experiencing it in real time.
Yeah, I think we've kind of had to manage it at the same time as development, and usually that's the best way to approach it, is to not wait to think about your marketing until the game is done, but really be experimenting with it, and reaching out to content creators. And those have been some of our like the best points of feedback, is watching people play your game. Sometimes if you're lucky, you can send it to friends and family, and maybe they record themselves, and you can get that feedback. But just watching, you share that demo, and then if you're able to get anybody to make like a YouTube video on it, or stream themselves playing it, and then watching back that feedback is just huge, super instrumental. And then you can kind of tune based on where they hit those friction points and everything. But it's been absolutely part of every time we hit like a big update, we're doing a huge outreach burst and trying to hit every content creator that might be interested in the game, and
QA as much as possible. That's
really
good. Even just attending shows with your own build in your hand so that you can just pass it along to people and get live feedback. It's great.
Totally. Yeah.
Actually, people actually went in the chat and asked a lot of questions all of a sudden. Pretty nice from Dreb400 on Twitch saying, I don't have a question, but I have more than 100 hours in the demo. Pretty good game.
Oh, awesome.
That's a huge achievement there. Bigardi asking, do you have plans to make it multiplayer?
We have it. So we're using the Unity input system, and like couch co-op, I think it can be feasible.
Couch co-op? Okay.
But in terms of networked, that's rewriting the whole game.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious about that. Why do you think so?
Oh, in terms of like rewriting the whole game from tracking the player state, tracking
application and everything. Yeah. It's funny enough, one of the earliest demos we had, I think it's a funny story in the development, because we do these kind of hack weeks in which we all like break off and make different prototypes and then present them and then see which ones get more time. And I think Kevin's first prototype of NIMRODS, it was just a surprise, and it was like, all right, everybody join the lobby. And we had no idea that he had made it networked.
Yeah.
So the first prototypes of NIMRODS, we all jumped in and got to play together. But.
Yeah, press this hidden shortcut, and then we could join.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, maybe you want to investigate, some kind of like networking method used for RTS games, for example, like where you just synchronize the inputs as opposed to the state of your gameplay, because there is so much going on, at all times. We got to a point where ECS is pretty solid from a determinism point of view. So you might just, focus on actual inputs, like in a fighting game, and synchronizing that across players, and then let every player just resimulate the gameplay to the same state.
Yeah,
Right.
Actually,
that's a good
Laurent, when
point.
that happens, could you also kind of check the result and kind of like if there is a determinism that doesn't happen, kind of like resync at the end?
Yeah, you that's basically what you would do, like on a semi-regular basis, a lower frequency, you would kind of
Mhm.
verify that you go to the same point. But it's the it was the point of the design of DOTS and ECS from the very first place to get to a point where we would have like a deterministic stack on the Unity engine. Actually, with
Okay.
6.3, we released a new sample, the Galaxy sample, that we verify determinism of across CPU architecture for just the entities simulation itself. We still need to expand our testing over physics and netcode to demonstrate like determinism. But Burst 1.8.25, if I remember well, came out with floating point determinism across CPU architecture. So we should
Oh,
get to a point now where you're kind of pretty guaranteed that it's running deterministically across all of the clients. The only thing is you need to be careful about how much you mix up with managed code and managed data. That's where you're going to break determinism. But everything that runs on ECS, you should be able to get there.
yeah, because
Nice.
that first demo, it wasn't. I mean, it was simulating or replicating of the input, but also replicating of like the projectiles. So I was like, this definitely can't scale. And so yeah, I think input, that sounds like way more feasible than tracking all units per frame per projectile.
Yeah, we actually had that conversation in another live stream not so long ago. It was kind of an RTS kind of games, and they were like focusing on input synchronization. Yeah, that would be the way to go for you because like it can just run locally and do all of the bullet hell,
Yep.
but still have that so limited amount of bandwidth to use for network synchronization.
We have a very interesting question from Dreb400. Where does the name of the game come from? I think I might have an idea for that.
I think it was just random, but it was kind of a slapstick fun way. But it is the classic, like it's a hunter is like one of the old definitions.
The mighty hunter.
Biblical. Yeah.
Yeah, it was only until they made it more of a joke of like, hey, you know, Nimrod or whatever. But even with that one too, that's part of our game's identity too, because we want to like embrace like wackiness. So like these Nimrods, like we have like a gun, a banana gun, and we're gonna have a boxing glove that pushes enemies back. So it kind of embraces that these characters that you're playing, they're skilled hunters, but they're also having a boxing glove, like wacky. So
it was popularized, I think, by the I don't know if I can name it, but the rabbit guy with the hunter, and it became kind of like a foolish name as well. But at the same time, it's like it originally is a powerful hunter. So I love that you guys have both definition and it fits the narrative of the game as well.
There's a question in the chat about why would a game need 100K bullets? I think the proper question is why shouldn't it?
Love that. To take down 100,000 enemies. Yes, Andrew, that's the answer.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
Well, we're coming up to the end of this, which is sad because this is our last live stream of the year. But I wanted to give a chance to the team to share anything you would like to share with your audience, any message you want to share, or anything else before we wrap up. And we will drop the last code, I promise.
I think just we're super grateful for everybody that's given us the chance to build this game and hung with us. So we've been in early access for a while, and we got a ways to go. But you know, I really appreciate just the feedback in the community has been awesome, and I think it's really helped us build the game into what it is today and what we want it to become. So I think, you know, join us on the journey, and you can wish list it on our platforms or join the community in Discord or you know, hop in the game and let us know what you think.
Yeah, and also too, like none of this would have been possible without using DOTS. I mean, just overall where we're at, the hurdles to now where we currently are, and the future of like way more modifiers, way more bullet hell scenarios, even more enemies. Like now we're even more confident that we can hit our performance targets while achieving our design dream.
Absolutely. Actually, Rames Funday on the chat earlier was saying that the Steam Deck is a surprisingly powerful little thing, and they are fairly confident you guys can hit 16 no problem.
Yep. Yep.
And the Bull saying you guys are doing great work. Yeah, we'll drop the last code in the chat right now while we're counting down to 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's go. And I put the link to the Steam page as well, so make sure that you wishlist or at least download or buy the game if you don't get a chance to get this last code. But thank you so much to the NIMRODS team. And Laurent, any last message you wanted to share before I wrap up?
It's time to have some time off. So I'm so glad to get into end of year, ramping down a little bit the energy. There's so much that happened in 2025, and we need to recharge a little bit the batteries so that we get into 2026. There's a huge amount of work in front of us at Unity. Maybe folks on the stream have seen some of the content from Unite. We have a lot of work in front of us, but also a very exciting amount of things to land in the product. So it's pretty exciting times.
I love that. And thank you so much for saying this as well, Laurent. I think a lot of things happen behind the scene that people are not necessarily always aware of. But this year has been fantastic. I think the amount of release, the pivot from the company, refocusing on the community as well, the amount of events that we've supported and community events, even local user groups and so on. And for those of you that have not had a chance to follow, I'm putting a link in the chat right now, which is our YouTube playlist for Unite Barcelona 2025. It contains the keynote, it contains the roadmap talk, it contains, I think, dozens of talks that we've had that we finally have published. They are all in the keynote and all in the playlist, so you guys can actually rewatch them in VOD right now. We even have the 12 hours live stream that we did with Jack with a lot of cool guests.
By the way, congratulations for that, Manuel. That was pretty impressive.
That was fun. It was definitely a challenge, and it was actually interesting to find the right moment to get our bathroom breaks and so on. But yeah, I think the reason why we did that is that, first of all, no one asked for it. It was just something that I was like, let's just do it. But mostly it's because of the diversity of the community. Because you see it also on the stream, we have a lot of different people working at Unity, but the community itself is so diverse. And I think in the past we had a lot of streams that are, on the time zone that feels like we are West Coast focused, but I didn't want people to think that that's what Unity is about. We have people all around the world, including our friends in APAC that are doing an absolute amazing work as well. And I wanted the stream to be long enough so that people could join from any corner of the world and feel welcome. And feel represented as well. And I think we did that. So this challenge was a lot, but it was really fun. And like you said, Laurent, it was just an amazing year. We're definitely going to recharge during those holidays, some time off for the whole team so that we can go into 2026 super strong. A lot of things on the roadmap. We have NIMRODS coming in 1.0 eventually sometime soon. But in the meantime, you guys can download it and test it out. And I hope you got to grab a few of the codes that we shared today. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Kevin. And thank you, Laurent, for joining us. And you, my friend, thank you for joining us. And thank you for being here for this last stream of the year 2025. And we'll be seeing you back in January. We don't have an exact date yet on when the next stream is going to be, so definitely make sure to follow our YouTube page at youtube.com/unity and just refresh the homepage. Whenever we have a live stream that's planned, it's usually there, and you can just subscribe and make sure that you don't get lost in the notifications. But yeah, we're looking forward to an amazing 2026 with you all, with more guests, more live stream like these ones where we get developers to showcase their game, to teach each other. And thank you for the community for always being there in the chat. People like the Bull that are there all the time, the Bull, like we say today. And also making sure that, when we don't have the answers, the community is there to support each other. I think that's the beauty of this engine and this community that we've built. And I'm just so proud to see you all. So I hope you have a great rest of the day, great rest of the year, and we'll see you back in January. Thank you, my friends, and see you soon.